Hello, welcome to Sideways. I haven't got much to tell you this week because I can't remember what we talked about, so I thought I'd give you a few seconds listening to that beautiful blackbird. I do remember we had a conversation about small talk and how difficult that is if you suffer from this particular affliction, which can often be confused with many other things that look like it but aren't it. Shyness.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
Yeah, all right. I'm in a bit of a rush though because you rushed me this morning, which is terribly uncomfortable.
Oh, sorry, mate. How did I rush
because you want to go and listen to some rock.
Exactly, mate. It was a last minute thing. You know, I wasn't supposed to be going.
I don't do last minute things. You know what I'm like with routine.
I know exactly that. I'm not great.
You throw me right out of kilter.
Well, it's only sort of 15 minutes early we're doing this, so I'm hoping it hasn't ruined your whole weekend.
No, 9:30 usually we record.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, 30 minutes early. Yeah.
Something wrong with your arithmetic there.
Well, it was, but I was concerned. Now you put me on the back foot if I've upset you. You know what I mean?
I expect you'll get over it.
I think I will. I am already, mate. To be honest, but I was just dishing out a platitude. But anyway, apart from that, you're all right, though, are you?
Yeah. Well, the sun's shining, isn't it?
It is. Well, exactly that, and that could be on your gratitude list, really, couldn't it? The sun being out.
Well, it might have to be because I haven't had bloody time to think about anything else.
Oh right, I'm okay. You've only had a week, but no, you're right. So I'm able to do your gratitude list for you as well.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that would be excellent. Because that'd save me a bit of time.
It would. But what I wanted to talk about to you this morning was shyness.
Interesting.
It is interesting. Well, someone's mentioned it in group, I remember, before, and it's come up quite often that, people have used drink and drugs in the past as a way of overcoming shyness, a bit of a social crutch, which is fine. But then someone mentioned in group, they said they were quite shy, which is fine, but they were born that way. And it was that, I found that quite an interesting comment and wanted to explore it a little bit further. So here we are.
Excellent.
But before we start,
yeah.
We talked about cow cuddling a couple of weeks ago.
I do. Yeah, I went straight to Google and tried to find some nearby venues.
Did you? And were you successful?
Well, I think there were a couple, but it was quite confusing because it was one of these situations where. It says cow cuddling in Kent or something, and you click on it, and it turns out it's in Shropshire or somewhere.
That's not great, is it, mate, really?
I'm not travelling to Shropshire to cuddle a cow, I'll tell you that.
Why should you?
Yeah.
Why should you? The cow should come to you, mate. They should do a Deliveroo cow for you, mate.
Yeah, like they have sort of mobile sort of car cleaning and stuff.
Yeah.
Bring a cow around, let you have a little bit of a hug in the street, and then take it away.
Well, apparently there's been an outbreak of bird flu across herds in the USA.
Oh.
And it's caused a bit of a halt to proceedings. I didn't know that bovines could get bird flu. Apparently they can, and a couple of humans have had it transmitted.
What they're worried about, isn't it? It's sort of going from species to species. That's the big worry, isn't it?
Well, it is the big worry. So they've sort of called a halt to it at the moment. They're trying to protect the cows and those people cuddling them. So right. It's off the menu, bit of cow cuddling at the moment, apparently, until the epidemic's over.
Or just in the US or generally?
Just in the US at the moment, yeah.
Right. So if you were embarking upon a US holiday, hoping to do some cow cuddling, you might have to rethink.
Well, you got to stay in Shropshire by the sound of things, yeah. That's as good as it gets.
Let's face it, it's not as far to go, is it?
It's not, no.
Unless, of course, you live in Mexico.
Quite, yeah. But I was also caught by. I mean, I think we mentioned this a couple of years ago, but it's been The cheese rolling contest happened last week as well.
Yeah, I saw some footage of it.
Yeah, I mean it's quite bad, isn't it? Really, I mean they've got this. I was looking it up online because I'd seen some of the footage as well, and they get this the master of cheese. He stands at the top of a slope, doesn't he? And it's like a 200 yards. This slope straight downhill, quite sheer.
It's not really a slope, is it? It's like almost like a sheer drop.
It is, yeah. And people chase this. He rolls a 7-pound wheel of double Gloucester down the hill. He releases it, and then the competitors chase after it.
Yeah,
and the first one that gets to the bottom, they get the cheese. Because I always thought they had to catch it to get it, but apparently not. It's just the first one at the bottom.
Yeah, no one's catching that cheese.
No one's going to catch the cheese.
No. I mean, to be fair, if someone lobbed a 7-kilo wheel of double Gloucester down the road, I'd probably chase it.
You'd want it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but I'm not sure I'd throw myself essentially off the side of a cliff, which is, I mean, if you're not familiar with the cheese rolling tradition, it is worth going to the internet and trying to find some footage of it, because it is quite remarkable, isn't it?
It's absolute carnage, because people really hurt themselves. But because it's there's been warnings about, because it's very slippery this year apparently as well, with a lot of the rain that we've had.
Yeah.
But the emergency services, we're not coming. It's a waste of our resources, not. And so they got the local rugby club, all the big old geezers, to stop the people at the bottom as a sort of a buffer.
Yeah,
so that was just they'd catch them sort of as they stop them flying by.
I read that as well, and my first thought was, to be honest, once you've got to the bottom, that's not so much your problem, is it? It's getting from the top to the bottom. I suspect that's where most of the damage is done.
Yeah.
So once you've reached the bottom in one piece, I wouldn't really care if I rolled into a hedge.
No, you wouldn't, would you?
It's
really?
the broken limbs that I'm suffering on the way down as I spiral. As if I were in one of those. What those things called that you did once?
Zorbing.
Yeah, it's like zorbing, isn't it? Without a zorb.
It is, yeah.
Essentially what it is.
It is, and zorbing was pretty freaky when you got the comfort of being inside a big cushioned ball. Yeah, but to do it al fresco, no thanks.
So you're not planning to do the cheese rolling next year anytime soon?
I think
for your knees anyway.
Well, quite. And if I was that desperate for some double Gloucester, I'd go to the Cheese Emporium and get myself one.
You've just got to pop down Aldi, haven't you? If you
have really.
Double Gloucester. They've not thought it through, have they, those people?
They don't tend to have wheels of double Gloucester. They have to go to that cheese shop in London, or that one by Borough Market.
Yeah, it's no good you going there, though, because you get all panicky. You end up with something you didn't want.
Well, last time I was in there, I felt very shy because I didn't know what was going on. There's a lot of social anxiety.
Okay, yeah.
Which sort of leads us on quite nicely. I'm not saying that shyness is a bad thing. I want to point that out first of all, really, because it's... it
is often used as a pejorative, though.
It is.
Yeah.
But some people acknowledge that it does hold them back. I think that's fair. And as we say, a lot of people have used it as or have used drink and drugs as a way of potentially overcoming the shyness. But it's a short-term answer, my friends. I wouldn't go down that route if I were you.
When you're describing shyness, are we really talking about introversion here?
No.
Oh.
Well, I'll come on to that, because there's a difference between shyness and introversion, which I will come on to in a moment.
All right.
But I wanted to we'll define shyness first.
Let's do that.
I'll read it out if I can.
Yeah.
Shyness is a sense of awkwardness or apprehension that some people consistently feel when approaching or being approached by others. Shyness is a response to fear, and research suggests that although there is a neurobiology of shyness, it's also strongly influenced by parenting practices and life experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You think that there was a bit of other medical bit in there, but I've left that out because I didn't fancy it.
Which you couldn't pronounce the words.
Couldn't pronounce the words, mate. No.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That's good. So yes, I can see now the distinction between that and introversion.
Yeah. I mean, shyness emerges apparently from a few key characteristics, such as like self-consciousness or low self-esteem, but mainly by fear of judgment and rejection. And shy people can often make unrealistic social comparisons. I think that I've heard that quite a lot. And we've talked about it in the past, haven't we, about looking on social media and comparing yourself and how that affects self-esteem. So I think people become shy if they pit themselves against the sort of the most vibrant or outgoing of individuals. We all know those people, don't we? The people that seem to fill a room with charisma.
People like me, you mean?
I wasn't thinking directly of you, but I was thinking of something. You may well fall into that category. I couldn't possibly comment, but you do find people like that, don't you? And if you think you try and be, they're often deemed as quite cool, aren't they? And you think,
well, yeah. I mean, I think society values gregariousness, doesn't it? And calm and yeah.
But if you are shy, I think you think other people are constantly evaluating you and evaluating you quite poorly. I think, and that feeds into the shyness. And I think, and again, if you're shy, you tend to steer clear of new social opportunities, don't you? Which then in turn is cyclical, isn't it? And you don't then improve your social skills. You can.
It's difficult, isn't it? When you think, because as I'm thinking about it now, and I'm thinking, because when you said you want to talk about shyness, I thought, oh, interesting, because it's not something I really feel particularly familiar with. But as you're describing it, I'm thinking, it's quite difficult to distinguish between shyness, social anxiety, introversion, low self-esteem. I mean, they're actually, to be able to differentiate between, well, what is it that's causing this particular behaviour is actually quite tricky. And I suppose part of the value of the word shyness is the way that people use it on themselves. You know, I feel like I'm a shy person. As you said, if someone says, oh, I'm shy, I've always been like this, this is how I was born. So there's something there about the importance of your kind of self-statement and your self-image related to that word, I think.
There is, and I'm going to just break one of my rules. I'm going to go further down my notes, then zip back, because I did have a look.
Are you sure you're going to be all right with that?
I think so, mate. I think, but you'll have to.
Don't push yourself too far, because it means we're both going to be feeling a bit wobbly this morning, and that's not good, is it?
Oh, well, I might need a bit of therapy afterwards, mate, if that's all right. I might have to lean upon you a little bit.
All right.
But I just want to look at because you mentioned the difference between shyness and introversion. I have got a little definition as to how they differ.
Okay.
And I'll read it out. Shyness is distinct from introversion. Introverts feel energized by being alone, by having time on their own. Shy people often want to connect with others, but don't know how or can't tolerate the anxiety and fear of negative judgment that comes with human interaction. Their inclination to turn inwards to monitor their own behaviour and perceived shortcomings can prevent them from developing relationships.
So
you buy that? Do you buy into that definition?
I absolutely buy into that definition. But that's a definition that also fits social anxiety, neurodivergence, and low self-esteem. It is a bit of a coverall. So going back to what you're saying, shyness can cover all of those, can't it? Yeah. So in my mind, rather than it being a sort of a state, it's more, as you say, a catch-all for this is the way that I'm behaving in the world, rather than this is the reason for it, if that makes sense. Anyway, let's carry on. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, well, the question is, are people born shy? Which is what I initially looked at. And just briefly, what came up that's apparently, we a sense of self develops around about 18 months old. So you could argue that you can't be born shy. It is, they reckon about 20% of children are born with a highly reactive temperament, but that doesn't guarantee they'll be shy or unable to change their behaviour. So the question of, are you born shy? It seems to be that isn't the case. It is nurture rather than nature.
This is a big one, isn't it? Because this is the whole nature nurture debate, and
we don't want to get
and is it? I think we've spoken about this before. I feel like it's probably, well, actually, there's a lot of research to show that it is a combination of the two.
Yeah. We don't want to get into the nature and nurture business, because we will be here for an awful long time, won't we?
I think it's worth acknowledging, though, that to some extent, we are a product of the environment into which we are born. and the circumstance of our gestation.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's although it seems to be that shyness can develop at different stages of your life or different levels of shyness.
Yeah, so
Go on. I was just going to say, as babies, we know that, as we said, we know that the first 18 months you can't possibly be shy because you haven't really developed a sense of self.
I'm kind of going back to what you were saying before, which made absolute sense, which is this kind of feeling of shyness can develop related to the way that you're parented, for example.
Yeah.
So if you are born of shy parents,
yes,
and you grow up seeing behavior modeled for you that is shy behavior or socially anxious behavior, then that is going to make it more likely that you become shy and then feel that that's just necessarily who you are, right?
That's it, and that was the point I was going to come on to. That supportive, sensitive parents can buffer you against developing shyness or social anxiety, but the opposite can happen. If you have parental role models that are inherently shy, then that's going to be almost definitely a feature of your characteristics going forward, isn't it?
Yeah,
your character.
Because the same is true of something like anxiety, which will look like shyness in some situations, which is if you develop anxiety, then it's always worth asking, well, what are your parents like? Is it possible that you've learned anxiety from one of your parents? In the same way, funnily enough, as in some respects, you might have learned to rely on drink as a way of dealing with difficult life situations because that's what you saw your parents do, right?
I mean, I think you're right, and that after you go through childhood, early childhood, it's the next point that tends to be quite problematic is adolescence, puberty. I think that you've suddenly got new situations to deal with, haven't you? And friendships. Yeah. And I think that we've all been through that fear of being embarrassed or rejected or perhaps fully known, being exposed for something or other. Perhaps your sexuality, for example, that sort of thing can cause shyness. And I think that those fears at that point, I think a lot of people that I talk to in recovery, that's what you can almost pinpoint it to where perhaps things really took off badly as far as drink and drugs is concerned, right at that adolescent point, where they are starting to rely on them to feel less shy and more socially interactive. So it's quite an important point.
So you're saying then that there's a lot of people might have difficulty with substance dependence because they are finding it difficult to connect, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It comes out, obviously we know that isn't the sole cause, but it can be a real root issue that can contribute towards problems going forward.
Because vodka won't reject you, will it?
It will never reject you. Well, eventually, I suppose it does when you start rejecting it. But I think it's a case of when you are starting to reach out and suddenly find that it does help you. It's very difficult, but not everyone. Oh no, most adolescents have a drink, but not. We know only 10% go on to develop addiction issues. So there's something else going on. But we know that the first potential step into drinking is at that age when you're using it amongst your peers, just to feel more at ease.
Yeah, we also know that, at that age, if you don't drink for any particular reason, then you can find it additionally difficult to connect.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
Because you're seen as a bit of a weirdo, aren't you?
Bit of a square, yeah.
Bit of a square, yeah.
It was,
so still used. Is that still used, that phrase?
I don't know.
We still describe people as squares. Because I quite like it. I think it should come back.
I think it should make a re-emergence into everyday vernacular, but I mean, it's probably seen as pejorative enough to warrant not being used.
I'm going to start using it again, I think.
Okay, yeah, fill your boots. Yeah, you get on.
I'm going to, yeah.
So it's overcoming shyness. As I say, I'm not saying shyness is always bad, but I think if people do find it's holding them back, there's certain little tricks or tips that I just wanted to look at. Because I think what struck me really when I was in this research is, if you are trying to overcome something like this, are you losing your own sense of identity? Are you changing?
See, I think I'd look at it a slightly different way. I'd say that if you're calling yourself, you're saying, oh, I'm shy, there is a very strong sense of negativity about that.
Yeah.
And I think it's perhaps a good opportunity to reframe, to think differently about what it is, because there might be aspects of what you're describing in saying that you're shy that actually are fine. And what you're really trying to do is you're trying to attend to the ones that are, as you say, holding you back or creating difficulty in life.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I think it's in some respects an unhelpful term, because it's kind of so broad. So if, for instance, you're saying, well, I'm shy, and what you really mean is it means I can't connect socially, then it's probably helpful for you, isn't it, to be more specific and identify that particular thing you have difficulty with to be able to address that. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. But I think, again, some of those sort of tips that we're looking at that I when I was doing the research, it seems to me it's really getting around anxiety rather than shyness, because what it recommends is, instead of avoiding social events, shy people can schedule them in advance and practice their social skills ahead of time. This is quite tricky. They can plan a few questions and talking points and observe the discussion to get their bearings before contributing. They can also work to reframe their mindset, which is what you touched on, expecting a positive outcome rather than assuming a negative reaction. And that's quite tough, but I understand that. I have to be organised before I go. I can suffer with anxiety.
Would you call yourself shy, though?
No, not particularly.
No, you see, this is it, you see, because you feel some of the feelings that people would associate with shyness.
Yeah.
One of the other things I think it's important to recognise is that sometimes we counterattack those feelings. And I think you do that. You've always been someone, all the time I've known you, you've always been someone that in a social situation is very gregarious, very outgoing, very sociable, even though I know that inside sometimes it feels uncomfortable for you.
Yeah.
So it's a strategy you've developed, isn't it?
It is.
It's like you go out into the world appearing much more confident than you might feel.
I agree.
So that isn't a presentation in and of itself of anything that one could describe as shyness. But you're still in a sense using a strategy that is addressing some of those same feelings.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that you're absolutely right on those, but being prepared is, which is why I'm always early to places and get prepared so that I'm settled. So I'm not left with anything else that can contribute to my anxiety.
Yeah, exactly.
Or potential social shyness.
Yeah. Whereas, of course, I take a slightly different approach, which is I don't do anything.
Just don't go. Why should you? but again, see that again. What struck me is you probably get to a point. We've talked about childhood. We've talked about adolescence. You get to a point in your adulthood, but you don't give a damn. Whatever. I'm doing exactly what I want. I don't have to fit into social norms. I'm quite happy doing what I'm doing.
I think for me, the thing was that I recognised that I'd spent a lot of years doing things because I felt I needed to kind of be normal. And it's exhausting. so I think that's another part of it, isn't it? The getting to the point, I think it's what you're saying, getting to the point where you feel like you're okay embodying your true self.
Yeah.
And then what you have to do, I think you have to reflect on that and you have to think, well, okay, is this healthy? So I would say, well, actually, I tend to veer slightly too much on the, disconnected. And that's something I have to work on a little bit. But largely, the greater the extent to which you can be comfortable in your own skin, the less you're going to feel anxious, because anxiety, at that level, anxiety, or a word like shyness, can be used to describe something or a situation where you feel like you've got to be someone that you aren't, or that it's not okay to be who you are, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I say that I think with a word like shyness, you need to subdivide it into, well, specifically what it is that you're struggling with, because just feeling that you like being quiet and you don't always want to be the center of attention, and, that's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. But if it's damaging you, making your life more difficult, then you do need to do something about that. But you need to be specific about what that is.
Yeah, you do, and I think I think you touched on that about being, softening your self-criticism. Because it's unhelpful, isn't it, when you're constantly
Massively.
when you're always down on yourself and talking yourself into being shy or talking yourself into a situation where you don't think you're going to be able to fit in. And I don't know if you ever found it, but I used to find when we used to go on stage with the band, I'd be nervous beforehand, but the sense of relief when that first note was hit was just enormous. And I found myself totally at home after that. I was all right. And you find that a number of shy people, or a number of people that have made it big, are fairly introvert, and suddenly they go on stage and things happen. You find yourself in a completely different, because you're putting on a bit of a show then, aren't you? It's not the real you there. And you find people with stutters that can happen as well, can't it? They go start singing and all of a sudden there's this beautiful singing voice coming out.
No, I used to find that same thing happened with drama, with theatre.
Did it? Yeah.
I'd get nervous, but actually once it started, I was fine. As you say, for that reason, I was playing someone else. I was being someone else, and that was much easier. And with music, I was all right in the band. It was when I played on my own that was a terrible struggle for me, because there's nowhere to hide.
No, quite.
And in a sense, you're kind of you're being almost more yourself than yourself. If you're playing stuff that you've written, it's like you're opening yourself up to a level of vulnerability that you don't necessarily open up to in normal life. And so I found that crippling, to be honest. It was horrible. Always hated.
Not something you're going to return to any time.
No, I mean, it was something I really wanted to do. I love the idea of doing it, but it's just feels overwhelming to me.
Yeah, too shy.
Too shy, hush, eye to eye.
Actually, Kajagoogoo, they saw it coming, didn't they? So that's about it. Well, outgrowing shyness, we've already sort of touched on that, really.
I had one other thing to say.
Sorry?
I had one other thing to say.
Okay. What bring it in now, mate.
All right. I wanted to just touch on that observation that you made about people saying, I'm shy, I was born like this.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't just apply to shyness, it can apply to anything. But I think whenever anyone says, oh, I'm like this is how I am, this is how I was born, it's always worth saying, well, I always say to them, well, how is that helping you holding that belief? Because whether or not it's something that we were born with and it's unchangeable, let's say it is unchangeable, it doesn't really help us to hold that opinion. It's much more helpful for us to say, well, actually, this is how I am. I'm going to keep an open mind as to the degree to which I can change it. Because if I keep an open mind about my ability to change it, then that's going to give me more opportunity to change it. So if you ever think anything about yourself is just baked in terms of something that influences your behavior or makes your life more difficult, just try and keep an open mind, because it's not really helpful for you to tell yourself, that's it, I can't change it. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good point. I mean, it's a self-awareness issue then, is it? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's more about belief, self-belief. It's more about, telling yourself if something is in your way, there's no reason, there's no benefit in telling yourself it's unchangeable. I mean, obviously, if you're talking about your height or something, that's a bit different. We're talking really about behavioural stuff or emotional stuff. It isn't, I was born anxious, I'm never going to change this. How's that going to help you?
Yeah.
For a start, you can't prove it. And if you can't prove it, what's the point in believing it? Because all you're doing is you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. So try not to do that, because it's not great.
But I mean, they talking about outgrowing shyness. They recognise that often people become a little bit easier with small talk as they get older as well, which then can break the ground, or you start to find common ground with people, don't you?
Interesting. I've become less tolerant of it as I've got older.
Yeah, I'm not a great fan of small talk, but I can't wait to get to the
next. You're quite good at it.
I'm all right at it. I can't wait to get to the next bit where you do find something in common. So it can take a bit of searching around. But yeah, I do quite.
Yeah, but it says something about your kind of openness and diligence and tenacity to kind of create connection.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference I see between you and I. If we were both in the same situation, I would come across as not very friendly and not very interested, whereas you would really work hard to find that common ground, and that is about small talk, isn't it? Quite often, small talk is the route towards finding.
It is. It is,
and you're willing to, walk that route, and I can't be asked.
No, you can't be asked. No, which is fair enough. But it is that joy. You're talking small talk, and suddenly you find the other person likes football, for example, or likes music, and you're away. Bang, done, job done, and all of a sudden you're sort of proper matey after that. And I do like that adventure.
Oh, actually, that's going to be an idea. So next time I'm in a social situation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up with, do you like? And I'm going to just list the things that I like. And if they say no to all of them, I'll just walk away.
Just walk away, yeah.
Well, let's not waste our time together then.
We're never going to connect. Off you go.
Correct, because we've got no common ground.
That'd be interesting to see what will be on your list. I'm sure something like, football would be on there, obviously, music, and cooking, probably it would be on there.
Yeah, I'd probably try and be a little bit more specific, though. Yeah. Because I could say music and it might turn out that they like Shalimar.
Yeah, well, quite. Or Shostakovich.
And then I've created a problem for myself. And I might say cooking, and they might think that cooking is putting something in a microwave, and then I'll feel, I'll feel judgmental.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. But if someone said, virtually everyone likes music. I've only ever come across one person. I remember it distinctly. He said, "I'll never listen to it. I don't really like music."
Yeah, that's mad, isn't it?
It's such a rarity. So even if someone does like Shalimar or Shostakovich, the door is then open to start to hone them in towards other. There's always a bit of common ground there somewhere. Yeah,
I might throw a few things in, a few subjects that I definitely don't like, to sort of create a balanced scorecard. If you like motorsport, because if there's a yes there, we're in big trouble.
We're in trouble. Yeah, you walk away from that one. Exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So that can overcome, because what you're doing, you're preparing them beforehand for the social situation. So that can certainly help. Trying to think about that next time you go out. Take your little list with you.
Yeah, I'm going to take a little list with me. I'm going to say, listen, before we get into small talk, I'm going to lay out for you the things I'm interested in. If we don't chime with any of them, let's not waste each other's time.
Yeah.
I think that would be a sensible approach to social engagement.
I think we've just about sorted out society, haven't we, in this last half an hour?
Yeah, good work.
Okay, shall we move on then? Shall we move on to the conundrum feature?
Oh, crikey, I've got to find one.
All right, okay. Shall we do gratitude?
Okay. That's okay. No, I can find one. I'll This is a good one for you. Actually, this one's kind of appropriate, actually.
Okay.
Is it ever okay to ghost someone?
To ghost someone? Is it ever okay to ghost someone?
Be careful how you answer.
Yeah, I know. Is it ever okay? Yes.
Okay, go on. You speaking on behalf of a friend?
I'm speaking on behalf of a friend. No, I think it's socially rude, isn't it, to do that?
Yeah.
But I think sometimes circumstances may dictate that cutting off any sort of connection is the right thing to do.
Right.
Especially if someone is very insistent, and any sort of interaction then is almost encouraging.
Right. So you're saying that there are situations where it wouldn't be sufficient to say, listen, I don't like you. Never contact me again.
Yeah.
Because every time I see your name come up on my phone, I want to kill myself.
Well, that's I think you've built the scenario in quite nicely. Yeah. But I think I think it's rare that you need to use that. But I think it is. There are situations potentially when it would be a last resort, perhaps. Right.
Okay. So what, are you saying then it isn't okay as a kind of replacement for having the kind of social, emotional courage to be honest with someone about?
No, it's not a replacement for that.
Of course, you used to ghost people in the pub, didn't you, years ago?
I did, and which
had a slightly different reason again, didn't it?
It did. Yeah.
So presumably you'd put that in the category of, well, actually, based on where I was emotionally, I didn't really have a choice at that point. Would you say that was because you used to leave so you could carry on drinking, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I did because I could carry on drinking at my own pace elsewhere. Thank you very much.
And of course, you couldn't tell us that, could you?
No.
Yeah. So in a way, you were legitimising ghosting because you had a need that was greater than transparency with your friends.
Absolutely, yeah. The priorities were skewed, I would admit. But so yes, I've done that. Certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
So, although it's not right really to do that, but I think sometimes it is the situation dictates or determines that perhaps you'd fall back to that to the last resort.
So are we saying then that in all situations other than some sort of emotional imperative, really you ought to be just straight with someone about the fact that you're leaving and you're not coming back?
Yeah, I think so, don't you? What's your take on it?
No, I was struggling to think about. I mean, it was prompted by my memory of you disappearing in the pub when we used to be out years ago. And of course, I knew why that was because we've spoken about it many times.
Yeah.
And then I started trying to think about whether there are other situations where it would be all right to ghost someone. Because, of course, ghosting is very common these days. You know, it seems that people never want to be honest with one another. It's just easy just to stop texting or whatever it is. And I think it feels as if that absence of emotional integrity and courage is really bad for society. It feels to me as if it's much better in relationships, particularly, to say to someone, listen, I'm sorry, this just isn't working for me.
Mm.
And it's not so much just the way it makes you feel that you can walk away with your integrity intact. But I think we totally underestimate the impact it has on other people when you just disappear. It's so emotionally destabilizing for people to be in this position where they think, oh, this is happening. And then suddenly for everything to change and for them to, not really know why. So I think if you are a ghoster, you should think about the impact it has on other people, because sometimes it's really devastating.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it has come much more of a problem with when I was ghosting people, I was ghosting them, physically. I was disappearing.
There wasn't an alternative, was there? There was someone on a phone. Could you?
There was no mobile phones. There's no internet. There's no texting people. There's no not answering it, blocking people.
No,
that just didn't happen because that wasn't available. So you was either there in reality or not.
Hmm.
So I sort of invented it, really, didn't I?
Yeah, to ghost someone in those days, you'd have to hide behind the sofa when they knocked on your door, wouldn't you? Which, funny enough, comes up in another question, but we'll cover that when we get there. Good.
We'll do that later. Okay, good work.
Thanks.
Gratitude list, then, mate. What do you want to say to that? What do you want to add to that? Have you thought of one, or shall I go first?
I think I've got one actually. If I think back about what I've been doing this week, I'm going to have self-discipline on my gratitude list.
Self-discipline.
So I'm grateful for my own self-discipline. Now, obviously, before I trained as a therapist, I spent many years working from home, as you'll remember, as we used to meet for lunch occasionally, spend most of the afternoon in the pub.
Yeah.
But actually, I think what it does create for you is a kind of basis of self-discipline when there's something that you need to get done and you think, well, I'm going to do that. And I know a lot of people have a lot of trouble with self-discipline.
Mm.
I've been thinking about it this week because, as you know, I've been training this year, doing some training this year, and I'm reaching the end of the training. And I've got myself completely organised this week, got my final portfolio ready and my final assignment done. And I was thinking, because it took a lot of work, and as I was doing it, I was thinking, crikey, I'm glad I'm not one of those people who constantly procrastinates and pushes it away until they get to the final. I used to be a bit like that, but I've really, really worked on that. And I think it's something that I've improved immeasurably. And the sense of relief and comfort related to it and lack of anxiety is something I feel very grateful for. So I'm grateful for my own gift to myself there.
Oh, that's a good one. It is a good one, especially at studying and getting that done. That's always been can be a sticking point for most people. But for doing it later in life as well, I think it's good. Because you probably thought at some point, I probably don't need to do this really, and you could very easily talk yourself out of it, couldn't you?
Yeah, but I think one of the other things I've recognised about myself is I like learning.
Yeah, well,
I'm not sure. I didn't really like it very much at school, but I think that's probably because I didn't understand myself properly. But I quite enjoy learning things. And of course, as my body gets older and starts falling apart, my mind isn't necessarily going to do that quite so quickly. And one of the things that keeps it sharp is, constantly feeding it with stuff.
I agree. I totally agree. Okay, no, it's a very good one. And it makes mine seem a little banal, really. And
that's what I was hoping, actually.
Yeah, I
suppose it's food related, yours, is it?
It's not actually, no. But it certainly lacks the sort of emotional depth that you're talking about with yours. I'm grateful for passing points on narrow country lanes.
Oh, my goodness me. No, I don't think there's anything lacking in emotional depth there. I'm totally with you on that.
When you go, because I have to go along on my way to work, there's several lanes that are passable only by one car. Mm-hmm. So, and you're going along a narrow country lane, and you're hoping if something comes the other way, there's going to be a passing point available. When there is, it's just a joy, isn't it?
I mean, yes, I'm totally in agreement with that, and I will take it a step further and reveal something about myself here. There are some places that I actually quite like to go to walk the dogs that I don't go because I feel so anxious about driving along really narrow country lanes without passing places.
Yeah.
And I know it kind of sounds ridiculous. I'm sure not many people feel like that. But I just think, no, I don't want that anxiety. I can't be arsed with that. And so I'm completely with you on that. I think it's a disgrace having narrow country lanes without passing places.
So especially when you have to reverse up. Or if you come up to, you can see someone in the distance. They quite easily could stop by a passing point.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah,
no, they don't. They plough on.
Yeah, I can remember one particular place that I went, and I got there and I thought that was good. I didn't meet anyone, and coming back, I must have met about 6 different vehicles and had to back up, and it was horrendous.
Yeah, especially if you've got another car behind you, and the two of you got to back up because there's a big lorry coming the other way.
Yeah, you've triggered a trauma response in me now. I'm going to have to go and have a lie down.
Well, I'm just looking at it positively. There are passing points available in most of these areas, but it's just accessing them at the right time.
Good stuff. Very good.
On this day in music, but which year?
Yep.
Do you know which year? 19 by Paul Hardcastle.
No, 19, you mean?
No, 19. 19. That one. Do you know which year that was? It was in number 1 in the UK charts. It was quite a sound at the time, wasn't it?
It's 80s, isn't it? Paul Hardcastle, isn't it?
Paul Hardcastle.
I think it's probably reasonably early 80s, actually. Is it, though? I'm going to go 84.
Oh, you got a point, mate. 85. So that's not bad, is it?
Yeah.
You'd be pleased with that. 85. Do you know which year?
No, 19. I was 19 when that came out then.
Were you? 85. Yeah, it works out about right.
Oh, well, no, I was 20, wasn't I? Well, it depends what month it came out.
Well, it's this month, so.
Yeah, it was. I was 19. He wrote it about me.
He did, actually, didn't he? I think it was about the Vietnam War, but the subject.
There's a similarity, isn't there?
Do you know which year Alanis Morissette was born? 1st of June birthday. So what's the date today? 2nd. So
you ought to know.
So yesterday she had a birthday.
Yesterday she had a birthday. I'm going to say she was born in 72.
Oh, 74.
Oh.
So that's unlucky. So it's a milestone birthday for Alanis yesterday. She was 50.
Well done, Alanis.
Well, I've get that far.
Right.
Now, do you know which year? And I don't think we've had this person before, but I know I've mentioned him in passing. Do you know which year Rory Gallagher died?
Rory Gallagher. It was a long time ago. I remember him dying.
Rory was obviously had issues with his alcohol.
He did. He liked to drop, didn't he?
He ended up having a liver transplant.
All right.
But unfortunately, the liver transplant, although it took, he ended up with sepsis, and that sort of saw him to shuffle off this mortal coil.
I'm going to get. I think this is one of those questions. Usually, I think to myself, I'm going to be relatively close here. But this one, this is a massive shot in the dark. I remember him dying, but I've got no idea how long ago it was. And I'm going to say it was 2001.
95. So
Okay,
longer
I
ago than you thought.
I wasn't as far out as I thought I might be.
No, that was a bit of a scattergun approach, I feel, yes.
So I got a 1 pointer this week.
You got a 1 pointer. But then
Draw.
But then our super group in the sky has got a decent guitarist going in there. You can't.
Yeah, who else plays guitar in that group? Do you remember?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to jot them down.
I'm surprised you haven't got a list.
I was going to spreadsheet them, wasn't I? But I haven't done so as yet.
I can't remember another guitarist. I'm sure there is one.
Yeah, I don't know if Jimi Hendrix went in there, did he? But
That wouldn't be a bad duo, would it? Jimi Hendrix and
Rory
Gallagher. Prince,
Yeah.
is he in there? Is he in the super group?
Prince. I think he did go in there, didn't he? Yeah.
I mean, he can do most things, so.
Yes, he was.
Anyway, I better let you get off to Rock the Moat.
Rock the Moat, yeah.
Who's on today then?
There's tribute bands, yeah.
I know they're tribute bands, but which ones?
I
today?
think Guns N' Roses one. I think.
Oh dear. I mean, that would be bad enough seeing the real ones.
Bjorn are on.
Oh, really?
That's an ABBA tribute, yeah.
Right, yeah. Isn't Green Day? Isn't there a
Green Day's on? I've seen them before. They are superb. There's an Iron Maiden one.
Is there?
Yeah.
We saw Iron Maiden, didn't we, at Reading?
We did. Yeah.
They were good.
Very good.
Yeah. Anyway, well, have an enjoyable day.
Well, it looks like
Don't get drunk on strong lager.
Well, I take my water bottle and fill up from the water tap like a proper hippie and stay sober, which is lovely.
Yeah, well,
and it's
enjoy
free.
yourself.
Thanks, mate. And I'll see you next week.
Yeah, laters.
Bye for now.
Bye. Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.